Welcome to another episode. On this episode, we're going to talk about how to get your audience to engage with your content. We're going to talk about 4 different things. Let's jump into it.
This is the Marketing Natives, providing actionable ways to grow, improve, and succeed in your business. And now, your hosts, Christian and Aaron.
All right. This one is probably the easiest and most simple, and it's crazy because every time that you do this, somebody is going to give an answer. They may not give an answer like audibly or like writing it out, but they will give an answer at least in their head. So you need to make sure that you ask questions, just simple questions. I think yesterday, or I don't remember when, but I've been trying to like ask questions just kind of topical with what's going on right now, but just asking people, hey, or telling people it's Friday and asking them if they knew it was Friday. And there was, 20 or 30 different comments that were going back and forth of people who were like, oh yeah, I did know it was Friday, or I didn't think it was Friday. I thought it was Saturday yesterday. So it's just a simple question that people just can't help but to answer because they're like, oh yeah, I need to, I don't know. I feel like I need to answer that.
Yeah.
So I think it's the easiest.
I would add open-ended questions, not just a yes or no. Right. Really, what you want to foster is conversations. And obviously, we're talking about creating that engagement, and creating those conversations will just sort of boost your post. And to be honest, Aaron's talking about just doing a question, and that's it. Like, it's literally typing a question on Facebook and doing just a question post, and that's it. Mm-hmm. There's no image attached or video or anything fancy with it. It's just a simple question, and it just generates engagement, and it helps you boost your other content, right? Because Facebook is like, oh, well, they're doing really good with this. People are actually engaging. They're liking this. They're commenting. Then this other content that they post must also mean that people want to engage with it. So they will also sort of push that. So you got to make sure that your other content is, good and valuable, and potentially ask a question too to generate that engagement as well. But these simple, just single question type posts will definitely help you engage, have your people engage with that.
Yeah, and this could be on Facebook. I've seen a lot of people, and it does really well, from like making a tweet and taking that tweet and putting it on LinkedIn or putting it on Instagram or something like that. So literally those exact tactics of just asking a question on all those platforms, it works for everything. Except for, like I said, on LinkedIn and Instagram, obviously you can't just do text, but Facebook and Twitter you could, and people will respond there. But then just taking that same question and putting it across multiple platforms, it doesn't matter, that it's going to work for you. So at the very least, just go out there and try to do some questions and provoke some conversation.
Mm-hmm. So number 2 is talk about things that matter to your audience, not you. And I think
they could be the same. They could be the same. They could be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of the communication or strategy. I forget the name of that.
Content Creation Foundation.
Content Creation Foundation. So I think it goes back to that, right? And making sure that what you care about is aligned with what your audience cares about. Your values align with, your audience's values. So having that in mind will generate more engagement for you and your content. So I think this goes back to how a lot of people care about their high school friends liking their page or their Instagram, just getting as many likes as possible, when that's not the case, right? You want to make sure that the audience that you're attracting is audience, it's that consumer base that actually aligns with your own values and your own beliefs, because the content that you post, it's going to resonate with them versus, resonating with your high school buddies that you have on your Facebook.
Right. And I've seen this now. So this may be something, depending on when you're listening to this, I've seen this a few times on like Facebook and Instagram where people are saying, hey, we're doing this follow train. And it's like, hey, go follow all these people and we'll engage with you. And then you engage with us and we'll get a bunch of likes and comments and shares and stuff. that sounds amazing. Honestly, if we were just regular business owners, like a pizza shop owner or something, I'd be like, oh yes, this is great. We need more likes, comments, and shares. But what you don't realize is that now Instagram's going to be like, hey, look, not only will they penalize you later, but more importantly, they're going to show you that, hey, all these people who you're in part of this quote unquote pod with or this group with are the only ones who engage with you. So they're going to show that content to them anyway. And then you're probably missing out on other people who were actually your target audience. So don't create the content for them to go and engage. Like, you're going to get a real response, or I guess you'll see if your content is actually good because people will actually engage with it. So if you put out an amazing picture one day, you'll know that it was a good picture and you can replicate that because the people were like, hey, that resonated with me, versus, oh, every time I get 50 or 100 likes and it's like there's no, or 1,000 likes, or it doesn't matter, but it's not real engagement. So you just never know, is any of my content good, or am I just putting it out there and I just get this false sense of like security for me having these numbers, like you said, that to impress people that you don't really care about, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we talked about this before, like on the short term, purchasing followers or, having these people, yes, will probably help you, but it's not a long-term plan for any business to sustain that, right? So it's important to take that into consideration. Sure, it might show that you have 10,000 followers, you're starting out and blah, blah, blah. And maybe some of them are seeing a lot of your content because they just recently liked your page and they're engaging with you. But in the long term, like, those people are just going to fall off because they're not interested in your content. And that's just going to hurt you in the long run. So definitely not recommend that.
Hey guys, so this is the perfect part in the podcast where you guys get an opportunity to take action. And that's what we want you to do. And it's something that Christian talked about this last week on one of our Tip for Tip shows, or our live video shows, was taking action. And yeah, as you're listening to this podcast, if you're having issues, or maybe you're trying to figure out a way to engage with your audience, you've been trying for years, you've been struggling with this and figuring out what does my audience really want? And we just gave you a tip. Talk about things that your audience want, and you just still can't figure that out. That's where you should go and check out our Leads Accelerator. This is a proven system that helps you figure out your audience, create a system and content that your audience wants, and then be able to actually take you to that next level to track the results. We're going to help you create content. We're going to help you find your target market, and we're going to help you track results so that you can have consistent leads and sales in your business. It's super easy. And if you would like to see if you're a good fit, just go to apply.bitbranding.co. Fill out the form there so you can pick a time that works for you. We'll get on like a Zoom call, and then we're going to fill out a couple of questions, or you're going to fill out a couple of questions so we find out more about your business. And then we'll just spend the next 45 minutes talking about how you can put things in place to help you grow your business. It's free. There's no obligation. There's nothing that needs to go on with it. It's a free strategy session to help you answer these questions. If you're having trouble, if you're still trying to figure out who your target audience is and how to create engaging content for them. So that's apply.bitbranding.co.
All right. So our third tip, and this goes back to, if you want to get good engagement in your content, you're going to have to put in the work, right? There's no easy route or avenue to generate good engagement. You just have to put in the work. And so number 3 is use real images and videos that invoke a response, and images and videos that you have created, not necessarily stock photography or stock graphics and things like that. So this kind of brings me back to, for example, St. Patrick's Day, or Valentine's, for example. A lot of business owners, they will probably go online, find a generic graphic that says Happy St. Patrick's Day or Happy St. Valentine's, and they just post that. Some are maybe a little bit smarter and find something funny, and they post that generates some engagement. That may be good. But something that will do 10 times better, it's something that you are part of, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily that you have to dress up as Cupid and someone's taking a picture of you. So that's real hard work, right? You have to go find an outfit, go find someone to take a picture, like find a setting. So that's real hard work. Now, a little bit easier will be maybe, and I mean easier for us, it's a Photoshop, right? To just put
Canva,
one of our faces, or Canva. Yeah, you can probably do it in Canva. use one of our faces and just drop that on top of baby Cupid. That's just a lot easier. It's our content, right? Because it's we're showing our faces in this, and being funny at the same time. So real images and videos of you will go, leaps and bounds. It will do so much better than having these generic stolen from Google graphics and images. So again, we want to encourage you to just take a little bit of time and just think about the next holiday that's coming up, which I don't know what's the next
Mother's
holiday.
Day. And Father's Day right after that.
And just think about something that you could do. Again, it doesn't have to be necessarily a video, an image. It could be a video. I know for St. Patrick's, we did a little jab of all of our faces in there.
And anybody can do that.
So again, yeah, that's available for free. So just think about, just be a little bit more creative on your content, especially when it comes to images and videos. And please try not to use any stock images or stock graphics that you see online.
Yeah, I was gonna say, out of any of that, like the last thing that Christian said, just reiterating it, is that just don't use the stock stuff. It's gonna get better over time. So you're probably not gonna go from 0 to 100. Let's be honest, or real here. But you can go from 0 to 50 by just not using the stock images and using yourselves. Like we could take a pic, or you could take a picture of yourself, and it just both wearing green, and for St. Patrick's Day, and say Happy St. Patrick's Day, and I promise you, it will do 10 times better than this graphic you found on Google.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, if you don't, for something like a major holiday like that, you didn't have time to take a picture, something that would probably do better is if you type just like 1 or 2 paragraphs of something that happened that day, or like an interesting story, or maybe you're relating to something that's happening currently, or whatever it may be. But just an honest like story would also do 10 times better than a graphic saying Happy St. Patrick's Day or something like that. But that's related to the holiday. It would, again, leaps and bounds. It would do way better engagement than going back to those graphics just because you want to do a graphic and it's that particular holiday.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, please take, if out of any of these 4, please use this one to help your audience. All right. The last one we have here is to use user-generated content if you can. So restaurants, you have a perfect opportunity. Tell people to tag you on Instagram. Tell them to message you on Facebook, leave a review, anything like that. A review is user-generated content. Somebody with their family who said that they're out to dinner for an anniversary, that's a good user-generated content. If you own a clothing boutique, if somebody's in their outfit and they post it, like post that on your page. Anything that's user-generated is going to do really well, because you could say how amazing you are all you want, but it does you no good if, or doesn't do you as good as if somebody else was saying it. So I could tell Christian, or I could tell somebody else, like, Christian is the nicest Puerto Rican you'll ever meet. And they're like, what? Those people aren't nice? And they're like, no, Christian is, I promise you. He is, he's nice. And they're like, okay, well, I believe that. But if Christian goes and tells them that, it's like, okay, yeah, obviously you have your best interest at heart. So it doesn't really matter, User-generated content.
User-generated content, which, it kind of sucks that we don't have that luxury of, a lot of user-generated content. Obviously, sometimes people tag us on posts and different things like that, networking events, and we can use that. But for the most part, like, we don't have a lot of that. So anyways, that's the last tip right there. Use user-generated content. Just to recap, number 1, ask questions. Number 2, talk about things that matter to your audience. Number 3, use real images and videos. Stay away from stock. And number 4, use some of your user-generated content, because that will generate more engagement with your audience.
Yes, and actually, as Christian was saying that, if you're listening to this podcast, take a screenshot of you listening to this podcast, and then go to Instagram and tag us at BitBranding, and we will share that. We want to just let us know what you're thinking of this podcast. Hey, I was listening, guys. Take a screenshot. Super easy. Upload it to your Instagram stories. Tag us. I don't know what we'll do, but we'll do something special for you. That's a good way that we could use user-generated content and also put you in front of our audience too. So I think that's something easy you could do and be beneficial for both.
Yeah, go do that. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Marketing Natives. I really hope that when this comes out, we are on the backside of this pandemic, or at least on the other side of it, over the apex. And hopefully you guys have listened to our work from home episode and it helped you. And we're out there creating content, and we've somewhat gotten back to a sense of normalcy. Let's hope. I don't know. We'll see. Predicting the future here. We're looking at 4 or 5 weeks out at this point. But if not, or if so, doesn't matter. Make sure that if this is your first time listening, that you subscribe to the podcast, because we come out with new episodes every single week. Even if it's during a pandemic, there's new content every single week. And if you've been listening for a while and you love the podcast and you're like, hey, or I just loved this episode, please make sure to go over to Apple Podcasts, leave an honest rating and review. This helps us create better content. It also helps reach more people, and it should be a better experience for you overall. We'd really appreciate it if you would do that. And we will talk to you guys next week.
The Marketing Natives podcast is a production of BitBranding.